So we're starting in Adho Mukha Virasana, downward facing hero, with support, with the bolster. So as you release the buttocks downward toward the heels, press the outer shins down. Get your blanket, bolster, pillows, whatever you have, under the chest and a little bit under the abdomen as well. Have a blanket or a little bit of height under your head and bring your elbows onto the blanket. If you don't have shoulder pain. If you do have shoulder pain, you could take your arms out to the side or you could take your hands back. But if you don't have shoulder issues, then hold your elbows, Parahastasana, and bring your forehead onto your forearms. Keep releasing the buttocks back. Soften and deepen the groins. Extend the trunk forward, but keep the weight into the heels. So the weight into the heels is to give you a sense of connection to the earth, a sense of grounding. So when we are experiencing times of uncertainty, we need that grounding. We need that connection to the earth. So in order to feel settled. So when there's a lot of uncertainty, if we can come back to this feeling of settledness in our own bodies, then that can calm the nervous system, calm the mind, slow down our thoughts, ease our anxiety. So have that with that weightedness into the feet, into the hips. And like I said, if you have knee problems, you could either put blankets under your hips, or you could do this from a chair, leaning forward onto a couch or something like that. The forehead resting on the forearms is also potentially a soothing gesture. So have the forehead, drag the skin of the forehead toward the nose. And that direction of the skin of the forehead helps to quiet the frontal brain. Notice this with yourself so that when you can feel your mind starting to race, just notice that if you can even take your hands out your forehead and gently draw the skin of the forehead down toward the eyebrows. It should immediately start to quiet the frontal brain. So these are sort of like body hacks, nervous system hacks that have long been a part of the yoga tradition and Iyengar yoga teachings. Change the cross of the arms if you haven't already. So that the other arm is on top. And then just really take a moment to feel the back body, to feel the breath moving into the back body. Lots of times when we're feeling activated, bringing the attention to the back body helps to slow down that activation. Feel your back ribs responding to your breath. Take 3 more breaths here through your nose. And then press your hands into the floor. Sit up stretch your legs straight. I also really want to remind everybody to really observe, to discern what your window of tolerance is, what your threshold is today. Because it's different every day and it's different from moment to moment. And so how important it is to respect and honor your window of tolerance, whatever it may be. And when I talk about window of tolerance, it's on a physical level, it's on a mental level, it's on an emotional level, all of that. Okay? So if I'm giving you an instruction that feels inaccessible or overwhelming, then disregard it. Move on. And I can give you an alternative if you want one. Okay? So now from here, keep the bolster where it is, and we'll take the feet to the, let's everybody take the feet to the left side, okay? The blanket, I'm gonna keep all of this height here actually, and the blanket will stay on the bolster. And the feet are off to the side. Now, I sit up tall, I turn toward the bolster. So the knees are facing, in my case, forward toward the camera, and then I turn the chest toward the bolster, and then I'll come over. I call this prone Bharadvajasana. I'm bringing the opposite ear, in my case, the left ear, to the blanket and twisting. All right? So it's a supported twist. So the knees go one way, and then the trunk goes the other way. Now, if you have neck or shoulder issues, turn your head in the same direction. Don't turn your head in the opposite direction. Okay? So those are the things that are up to you. Because I'm not there with you, I'm not going to be able to see what you need to do. So prone Bharadvajasana, turning your chest toward your support. Bring your chin away from your chest because that will help to elongate the neck. I think a lot of us over the course of the pandemic, we've been doing a lot of sitting. We've been at our desk a lot. Yeah, use plenty of support. If you can have your head in line with the spine, that's also settling for the nervous system. To just have everything on the same level. Okay, no roller coaster, but just a nice flat surface. So this twist, supported twists are one of the best ways that we can metabolize, literally stimulating in a gentle way the digestive system, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, moving the lymph. Super, super useful. And when you can do it in a supported way like this, then you can stay a little longer without any strain and allow the nervous system to just calm down. If there's any pain in any of these poses, make sure you don't stay, okay? And you can let me know, and I can give you an alternative or a modification. That's our specialty. So don't be afraid to ask for a modification. So this is Bharadvajasana, prone variation of Bharadvajasana. Once again, breathe into the back body. Observe the back body. And on each exhale, see if you can widen the back body more and more. That means the navel turns toward the bolster. The chest turns more. And maybe the head can turn. Take 3 more breaths here and breathing into the back body, widening across the back body. And then when you're ready, come on out. Stretch your legs straight. You can either move the bolster to the other side or you could just turn your body around, okay? And then take your feet to the other side. Sit up really tall, turn toward the bolster. And then come on out over the bolster. Turn the navel, turn the bolster, turn your head away from your knees, unless you have a shoulder problem. Neck and shoulder problem. Get prone, Dharana. And you come and take a look. Good. Yeah, make sure you're warm. So it should be very cozy. You know, these poses that we're starting off with, these are poses that like we often hold our babies in, right? They're often kind of curled up, sort of fetal, and with the chest supported. That chest support is super, super important and very soothing. Now, you might notice that it's much easier to twist to one side than the other. So each side we treat a little differently. It might be, you know, it's very common for people who have a little asymmetry in our hips, a little asymmetry in our spine. That's all very common. So you just have to be mindful of that and to work with that. So, for instance, you might notice that you need to turn a little bit more in the groins. You might notice that if you press your hands into the floor in a particular way, that you can enhance the rotation. You might notice that applying the breath to particular parts of the body will help you to access space and movement in that part. Use this time once again to breathe into the back body. Using the exhales to enhance the rotation of the trunk, enhance the rotation of the spine. Soften the abdomen. There's so much happening in the abdomen at all times. So if you can soften here, you can allow that churning, metabolizing, digesting to continue. And then when you're ready, come on up. Okay, stretch your legs straight. So now we're going to come to our feet for a little while. I think even in a restorative class, it's important to be on our feet, you know, because as two-legged creatures, we spend so much time upright and being in relationship to the earth as upright beings. And our legs are so important in terms of grounding us, settling us, and helping us to feel strong and resilient. So if you have a wall, that's ideal, okay? So with the wall here, I'll have my right foot at the wall. My right toes will be up the wall. Then I'll step my left foot back, quite a lot. Okay, and I'm turning, my legs are straight, and I'm turning toward the wall. My hands will be at the wall. Then from here, if all of that's going well, and if you have an injury, you can let me know. From here, I extend toward the wall, and I'll rest my forehead on the wall like this. All right, this is a variation of a pose called Parsvottanasana. So we'll be here for about 2 minutes, and then switch sides. Parsvottanasana with head support. If you don't have a wall, you could use furniture, but then you'll have to build up the furniture. So right foot forward, right toes up the wall. Right toes up the wall. And then your head, and then fold your arms. Fold your arms, hold your elbows, yes. And then rest your forehead. Now, if that's too much, then you can keep your arms straight. You don't have to rest your head. If it's too much on your hamstrings or your hips or your shoulders, you can just have your arms straight. Otherwise, rest your head, because there's advantages to resting the head in terms of the nervous system. But if, like I said, you have to determine what your threshold is and not to exceed your threshold. Now the abdomen has to pull up and back. Dale, watch that abdomen, pull it up and back so that the lumbar is not dropping. Okay, so don't make this a back bend. The lumbar has to be supported. That's really important in terms of emotional processing, is to have that support of the lumbar. Okay. Come on up. Left foot forward. Right foot back. The hips are facing the wall. Those of you who are familiar with Parsvottanasana, the hips are facing the wall. And then walk the hands up and maybe rest the head. Or you can keep the arms straight. The legs straight, the quadriceps firm. The front of the thighs should be very firm. Because the firmness of the quadriceps is going to stabilize your knees. Hold Baddha Hastasana. I'm suggesting Baddha Hastasana with the arms. Baddha means bound, hasta arms. And so it's this bound, holding the elbows closed. Because that'll give you a little cushion. It gives you a little like pillow for your head. Do you notice that? Gives you like a little pillow for your head. Yes, good. Okay, so now that you are understanding the pose, do the first side again. Do the first side again. Right foot forward. I'll give you another option. It's even possible to take the entire ball of the foot up, if you want. And it'll bring you a little bit closer to the wall. It does require, if you have the whole ball of the foot up, it does require that you really grip this the front thigh and pull the leg into the hip socket. It's a good feeling because it's a very grounding, settling, firming feeling. You know, those times when you feel like you need firmness and when you need assistance with that firmness. When we're going through emotional turmoil, then we often feel groundless. And so this strong connection to the ground through our legs can be really, really useful. Come up and change legs. See if you can, if it's going well, you can try taking your back foot a little further back. The further back you take your back foot, the more challenging the pose is. The more you have to really work through the legs. Make sure that that front outer thigh is pulling in toward your midline. And make sure that that back leg is really straight and pressing back. Alice, watch the lumbar. Navel up, Alice. Even more, a little bit more, Alice. Yes. Good. Take 3 more breaths. Here too, the back body is important. That back body for that wideness, going for that wideness in the back body and the movement of the back ribs. And then come on up. Now, so with the facing the wall, I'm going to take 3 steps. This is 1 step, this is 2 steps, this is 3 steps. I'll be 3 steps away from the wall and with the feet hip width. All 10 toes are facing the wall. Then from here, I'll take my hands up the wall and then move, extend the trunk toward the wall, and then once again, fold the arms. So now, this is a version of Ardha Uttanasana. So, resting the forehead on the forearms, bending at the hips, creasing at the hips. Okay? It's just a small Uttanasana. Thighs back, yes, and forehead resting. Good. See that the tailbone, bring the very tip of the tailbone forward and take the pubic plate back toward the tailbone. As if the pubic plate and the tailbone are moving closer together. Simultaneously press the thighs back, belly button up, and then chest forward. Legs are firm. Legs are firm. Change the cross of the arms. Now you could do this to a table, you know, you could do this to a table, you could do this to a couch, you could do this to a chair. But I figure everybody has a wall. And then finish up. Now, take your chair and put it against the wall, okay? Like I said, it could be any kind of firm chair. Take your chair and put it against the wall. Okay? Now, from here, the hands will go on the seat of the chair. I'm holding onto the sides of the chair, and then I step back into downward dog. Okay, Adho Mukha Svanasana. The feet are all the way to the end of the mat. The feet are behind the hips. Okay, arms are straight, legs are straight. All right, let me see. Now let me just say, if you have a bolster, you can take head support here, which is very nice. Okay, if you don't have a bolster, then don't worry about it. If you can come up with like a cushion or something, then you're welcome to use that. Maybe turn the pillow upside down. Turn it upside down. Yes, like that. But then with the bottom edge down. It has to angle down. No. The other way. Yes. Okay. And take your hands further back toward the wall, closer to the wall. Carry. Yes. And then walk in a couple of inches. Walk in a couple of inches. And then press your thighs back, thighs back, thighs back. Yes, not bad, not bad for improvising. So to take your feet wider because that will be easier to extend the spine. And then really use your legs. Use your legs to extend back, back, back. Take the weight off your hands. How do you do that? By using the legs and pressing the thighs back. Hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back. As far back as you can with the hips. So it's actually 80%. 80% of the weight into the legs and only 20% into the hands. Legs back. Okay. And then step forward and come on up. All right. So now we're gonna come to the floor. We're gonna come back to the floor and do some supine poses, okay? So have your support. So with the bolster and a blanket, if you have a couple of extra blankets, that would be great. So here, I'll have a couple of blankets on the side, so towels are good, you know, whatever you have. It all becomes a yoga prop. So take a look here. First, we'll do Supta Swastikasana. Supta means supine, lying on my back. Swastikasana is the legs crossed. So I'll bring the right leg in and the left leg in. So I'm sitting in a cross-leg position. I'm a few inches away from my bolster. I'm not pushed all the way up into the bolster. Then from here, I lift the buttocks a little bit, swing the buttocks forward, and then lie back. All right? Now, the extra blankets I can put under my thighs if I feel a need to. All right? So we'll be here in Supta Swastikasana. We'll be here for a few minutes, and then I'll switch my legs. I'm going to stay down, and I'll switch my legs, all right? So let me see you. Supta Swastikasana. So be near your bolster, cross your legs, lie back. Make sure that you're not at all straining your back. It's not a back bend. Yeah, and use whatever support you need under your legs or whatever you need in order to be able to be here without any strain. Yes. Yeah, I'm not there to assist you, so you have to discern for yourself. You have to have that much discernment to know, oh, it's a little achy in this hip, or there's a catch in my back, or my knee aches in this pose, or whatever the case may be. You discern and get support as you need. So blankets, towels. You might need to make the cross of your legs a little looser or a little tighter. Supta Swastikasana. So now, the mood of the class has changed. You notice? The first half of the class was all head down poses. Head down, chest down poses. And forward bends are often used to quiet and settle the nervous system. Supported forward bends can be really useful for that. But now we're going in the opposite direction. So it's a different state for the nervous system. Do you notice? Take a moment to, with your eyes open, just kind of orient yourself to the room that you're in. And just, you can gaze at the ceiling through your peripheral vision. Notice the objects in the room. have a sense for what's going on in the room, even where you can't see. Feel the floor beneath you. Feel the bolster, blankets, pillows under your back. Feel the temperature of the air in the room that you're in. Just notice all these, this is exteroception, feeling what's going on the outside. And if you're comfortable doing so now, you can close your eyes or just direct your eyes down toward your chest. And then you can begin the interoception, which is noticing what's going on inside. Start actually with proprioception. Proprioception is kind of feeling what the different parts of your body are, how they are in relationship to each other. So for instance, you might notice that one foot is further back from the other foot. You might notice that there's more weight on one side than the other. You might notice that one hand is a little bit wider than the other hand, away from your legs or your trunk. Just notice. There's nothing that you have to do right now unless you're uncomfortable or in pain. And now go to the interoceptive level, which is noticing the state of your breath. Noticing the rhythm of your heart. You might even be able to kind of tune into your blood pressure. Now here, I invite you to observe the rising and falling of your abdomen. It's effortless. You don't have to do anything. Just observe it. That alone can be very soothing and settling. Just observing the rising and falling of the abdomen. The same way it could be very settling and soothing to just watch the waves, like if you're at a beach, and just watching the waves come in and out. The same thing is happening with our breath. So you don't have to go to the beach. You can do the same thing with your own body. Notice that each breath is a little bit different. Each breath is unique. Notice where the breath is touching, where it's not touching. You don't have to change anything. Just notice. And then take 3 more breaths here. And when you finish your 3 breaths, just stay where you are, but change the pass of your legs. Now, if you want to come up to change the pass of your legs, you're welcome to. But if you could just change the pass of your legs while lying down, you can do so. Let me just give you a couple more options here. So this lying back, especially when you have a lift under your chest, sometimes it feels kind of vulnerable. So you can cover yourself. You know, you could put a blanket on your chest if you want to. You could also cover your eyes. You could cover your forehead and your eyes with a blanket or a towel, something soft, not heavy. You don't have anything pushing heavily on your eyelids. But those are some options. Having a slight weight on your forehead, it has a similar effect as the head down in the forward bends that we started class off with. It quiets the frontal brain. You know, the frontal brain is the site of language, logic, speech, writing, analysis. And so sometimes that can be overactive. And so having a slight weight can help to cool down that part of the brain and to slow down that function. Sometimes we need the stimulation, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it helps us, sometimes it hinders us. So noticing when it's a hindrance and what you can do about that. So just like before, start with exteroception, move on to proprioception. Remember, exteroception is noticing your surroundings, what's outside. Proprioception is how your body, how the different parts of your body are in relationship to each other. Interoception is tuning into what you are feeling inside the body. The breath, the circulation, the heartbeat, blood pressure, temperature inside. And then when you feel ready, bring your attention to your breath. From a yogic perspective, there are many different ways to focus or quiet and calm the mind. One of the ways that we practice is by drawing the mind toward a single object. So in this case, it could be the breath. And like I said before, it's not even about changing the breath. It's not about manipulating the breath. Right now, of course you can do that later, but right now it's not about manipulating the breath. It's only about observing the breath. Now, one thing about this particular pose, the leg position is such that you're creating a slight valley in the groin region. The groins are where the legs meet the hips. So you're creating like a slight valley there. And so that valley is to promote a real quietness in that lower abdominal region. Like I was saying before, there's like a lot of churning, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of heat in that lower abdominal region. And it's also a site in many traditions, including the Korean tradition. It's a site of groundedness, centeredness. Hanchang, we call it in Korean. And so having that feeling of quietness, a little bit of heaviness even, that's created in that valley of the legs and the trunk, can help promote a feeling of balance and well-being. Okay, 3 more breaths. And then, after your 3 breaths, bring your knees up, roll to your side, and then sit up. Okay, so now we'll do one more supine pose, okay? We'll do Supta Baddha Konasana. This is Baddha Konasana. Feet together, knees apart. Do have a little support, okay? So with my feet in Baddha Konasana, I'll have blankets on either side. You can use pillows, towels, whatever, under the thighs, okay? So that the groins, the inner thighs, don't get sore. And then I pull my feet in as close as I can. If you have a strap and you want to use a strap and you know how to use a strap, you know, I guess. Otherwise, just go ahead and lie down. Okay, so this is a different leg position. This time, try having the arms wide. Have the hands in line with the shoulders, the elbows on the floor, long soft. We're going to come out for a moment to watch you. And of course, if you want to cover yourself, whatever you need is good. Yes. Okay, Supta Baddha Konasana, different leg position. Every leg position has a different physiological effect. So Swastikasana was more kind of contained. It was like sitting inside of a box. Baddha Konasana is very wide. Do you notice that? Do you feel that? And it brings a lot of circulation to the lower abdominal region, a lot of circulation to the uterus, the bladder, the prostate, the intestines, ovaries. Really good for the digestive system, really good for the menstrual, really good for pregnancy. But it's wider. It's wider, so you're going to feel, and it's going to have a different effect on the spine also. It's less contained, it's more spread, and the shape of the pose, can you feel it? It's a triangle. So the wide part of the triangle is your knees, the narrow part of the triangle is your head. So after you've done your exteroceptive check-in and your proprioceptive check-in, then begin your interoceptive check-in And see if you can feel that broadness through the knees and then narrowness coming up to the crown. You can even start to shape your breath to the pranic shape of the pose. So the pranic shape of the pose is that triangle. So on the inhales, you can travel up the triangle. And then on the exhales, breathe down into the wideness of the knees. So of course, we don't have lung tissue in the knees, but we do have prana going through the entire body. Prana is chi, yi, the etheric force, the life force. So you can tap into the pranic shape of this pose. And observe the different effects of each pose. So sometimes when we are under stress, under duress, we kind of close up. We get narrow, right? We get constricted, we get narrow. And that might be really healthy and necessary. But at some point, probably you will want to open up again. Probably at some point, you will need to gradually open up again. So this is one way of experiencing that. And always, it's up to you how much you're going to open up. And remember, you can cover yourself up, you could cover your head, you could, there are all different ways that you could modify, support this pose so that it meets your needs. All these poses can be modified to meet your needs on a given day. Take 3 more breaths here. And then when you're done, bring your knees together and roll to your side. So I do want to take kind of a semi-inversion because I really feel like inversions are key in metabolizing and processing our different experiences. And so the way I'd like to do it is, have a bolster. We're going to do Viparita Karani, okay? So the bolster will be a little bit away from the wall, like a hand's length away from the wall, all right? And then I'm putting a blanket. My bolster is kind of flat, so I'm putting a blanket on top of it, like that. I'm just going to give you the absolute simplest setup. And then I'm also going to put a blanket over the mat. You don't even need a mat for this really, but so that I will stick to the mat. So here's the setup, you see? So pillow, whatever, something firm. It should be firm. And I'm actually going to put I'm going to put another blanket because, like I said, the bolster is kind of flat. And it's not all the way up against the wall. It's a little bit away from the wall. You could use a door. You could use a couch. If you don't have a wall, you could use a couch. Okay, so now I am sitting on the bolster, okay? And I'll go this way. I think you can see. And I lie down. I lie on my side. I'm lying on my side on the bolster. One hand comes to the center of the blanket here. The other hand is going to go underneath. And then I simultaneously bring my shoulders to the blanket and my feet up the wall. Okay, so this is Viparita Karani, inverted leg pose. The bolster is like under my ribs. It's under my ribs. It's not as much under my hips. I'm letting my hips drop down toward the floor, and my shoulders and head are on the floor. To come out, I slide out like this. Okay. It's a little bit tricky to get in, so I want to watch you so I can talk you through it. Yeah, so if you're already in, good. Yeah, the hips should be nice and high. Let's see. Okay, so pull the bolster a little bit closer in toward the head side, just a little bit. Yeah, so that the chest can be really supported. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. I go, maybe do you have another blanket, one more pillow? Yeah, put that on top because you want it to be firm. Yes, good. That'll work. So go ahead and lie down sideways. You lie down sideways, and then you swing your legs up and bring your shoulders down. All right? Yeah, that's right. And then your shoulders come to the blanket and the legs go up. Oops. It has the blanket should go under, the support should go under your ribs. Under your ribs. So the head and shoulders need to be on the floor. So the head and shoulders are down. Head and shoulders are down. And then look where the bolster is hitting. It's underneath the trunk. Okay. So what's lifted? The rib cage and the hips. It should feel really good. Yes, that's good, Aiko. Now you just get your shoulders down. Yes, and spread your arms out if you can. Get your shoulders to the blanket. Come 1 more inch to the head side. That's right. Yes, that looks good, everybody. Now rest your legs. Rest your legs, and you can take your legs into Baddha Konasana or Swastikasana on the, yeah, like that, on the couch. Yeah, because we're going to be here for a while. So don't be strenuous. Yeah. Good. So now this is a slight inversion. The Viparita Karani is in the shoulder stand family. And it's not an intense inversion, which is why I chose it today. It's kind of a mild, it's kind of like maybe like a half inversion. But it's really useful in so many different ways. But anyway, what I was saying about inversions earlier, the reason why we love inversions so much in our tradition is because they really help with circulation. Circulation, the lymph system, and the immune system. So if you've got really good circulation and the lymph is moving around, then your immune system will be strengthened. But on a emotional level, when you're able to enhance your circulation and get that lymph moving around, it moves everything around. It just helps to process emotion. And so when you're going through intense experiences, being able to spend some time in headstand, shoulder stand, any of the other inversions, it helps to just move things along. It helps to kind of just enhance the processing because it's so good for circulation and because it's refreshing for the mind. I think when we're upside down, the brain gets kind of flushed out in a way. This particular position, Jalandharabandha, chest toward the chin. Dip the chin down, and allow the chest to puff toward the chin. And this particular head position is also very, very useful. When the chest and chin are coming together, it promotes the inward turning of the senses. So naturally the eyes kind of want to look inside the chest instead of toward the forehead, all around the room. The eyes just kind of are naturally drawn toward the chest. And the eyes are so important, right? On a neurological level. The eyes are actually extrusions of the brain. The eyes are the visible part of the brain. The eyes are the brain. And so when you're able to quiet the sensory activity of the eyes, it's a way of kind of quieting and slowing down the thoughts, the nervous system, the brain. In other words, that chest to chin gesture, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system and subdues the sympathetic nervous system. So learning how to do that is just a super, super, super important life skill, survival skill. Like I said, these are like hacks. These are like yoga hacks that have been known for thousands of years. But they're timeless. All right. Start to come out. So bend your legs, push your feet into the wall or your furniture and slide to the head side. Slide off the bolster toward the head side. And then when you're ready, go to the side. One last pose before Shavasana. We'll do Satyabandha, okay? So a long bolster. Let's put the bolster here. I'm going to put a blanket over my bolster, but you don't have to. It's kind of up to you, depending on what kind of bolster you have. And then you could also put a blanket here. That's optional, all right? So this is the basic setup. And then from here, it's helpful if you have a wall nearby, but you don't have to. Okay, so I'm sitting on the edge of the bolster. Do you see? I'm almost off the bolster. Then I lie back, and now I'm scooting toward the head side. I'm dragging myself toward the head side until my shoulders come to the floor, like that. And then I stretch my legs straight. So once again, it's the chest coming to the chin. I've created a dip here at my neck. And then to come out, I slide all the way down. Okay, let me watch you. Yeah, have your trunk on the bolster and your shoulders on the floor. Yes. Okay. Now here is, you could strap your legs. If you have a strap and you want to strap your legs, be my guest. Otherwise, you could just have your legs, you could have your feet into the wall like Alice is doing. There's lots of ways you can do it. Otherwise, you can just relax your legs, okay? Hey, so that come a little bit more on the bolster so that the chest is more supported, okay? Be more, have the chest, yeah, have the bolster between, the tip of the bolster between your shoulder blades so that the chest is really open here. Yeah, that's right. Now shoulders down, that's better, yeah. So the peak of the pose is actually the chest. Uh-huh, yes. Nice, everyone. So now this is a little bit of a back bend, but it's a very mild back bend. So remember, we started class off with forward bends, and now we're at a very mild back bend. And so that the gesture of the back bend is so different, right? It's very open. Sometimes it feels vulnerable. You know, so here the solar plexus and the heart, Manipuraka chakra, Anahata chakra are stimulated. And we associate those places in the body with courage, with compassion, with love. So that's not always, you know, courage and compassion and love are not always accessible to us. There are times, there are days when we need to kind of stay in our armor, stay protected, keep the gate closed. Sometimes it's necessary. There are other times when we need to kind of open the gate, but in a gentle way, in a non-forceful way. So this is one way of kind of opening the gate, opening the door. Feel the heaviness of the shoulders coming down to the floor. with that feeling of the chest moving toward the chin, and soften and deepen the eyes toward the back of the skull. Receive the frontal brain to the back of the brain. Soften the temples. This pose is also in the shoulder stand family because of the head position. But it's also a perfectly fine pose to do, like when you're on your period, and other times where shoulder stand is not an option. Take 3 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, you can bend your legs, drag yourself toward the head side. When you come off the bolster, then roll to your side. So now for Shavasana, I'll give you 2 options, okay? So there's classic Shavasana, just lying down like this. But you could also do prone Shavasana. So prone Shavasana, I would take the blanket thicker, a thicker blanket like this, and then put it at the end. And then for prone Shavasana, lying on my stomach, the forehead is caught here on the blanket, and then toes in, heel down. Okay? So remember earlier I was talking about the contrast and the difference of the different roles of the forward bends and back bends. So you could do either one, okay? The prone Shavasana is really, really quieting for the nervous system. It's good for anxiety. Being on your back is definitely more open. It's good for depression. So you can decide. In either case, lengthen the buttocks downward. Spread across the back, spread across the chest. If you're lying on your stomach, big toes toward each other, heels away from each other, so that you widen across the sacrum. When you widen across the sacrum and lengthen the buttocks down away from the back waist, that brings a quietness to the low back, quietness to the nervous system. So completely rest here. Shavasana is a time to just let the poses settle into the body. So each of the poses has a biochemical effect. Each of the poses has a neurological effect. Each of the poses has a physiological effect. So Shavasana is a time to just let the effect of the poses settle in, settle down. And also a time for the nervous system to come back to a neutral level. The poses, they're slightly stimulating, especially the chest open, supported back bend poses are slightly stimulating. So now giving the body and mind and nervous system a chance to come back to neutral. Come back to the observation of the breath. You can say to yourself silently, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And if your mind starts wandering, come back to the breath and breathing in and breathing out. Now, we've come to the end of our time. You can stay as long as you want in Shavasana. There's no rush at all. If you want to stay for the next portion, we're going to have kind of a sharing time for anybody who wants to speak or listen. Otherwise, if you need to go, that's also perfectly fine, of course. And grateful that you are here. We honor the sacred art of yoga and all our teachers. Yes, I am God, Ayurveda, inner teacher. We honor each other. We honor the land that we are seated upon. Here in Southeast Michigan, we're in Walla-Yakima, Anishinaabe territory. You know, the people of this land, the history of this land, the spirits of this land. We have ourselves to come into right relationship with the land and its people and its spirits. Grateful that you're all here. For those of you who are staying, how about we just take like a 4 or 5 minute break, okay? And then we'll come back if anybody wants to stay and have a conversation about